Somehow, some way, the College Football Playoff Committee liked the Big 12. Utah headed to the chip. This is the Big 12 squad. Don't say Grande squad, Big 12 squad. One of the two, whatever you want to call it.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up. It's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up. You're part of the Big 12 squad.
Happy Thursday evening, everybody. Welcome to the Big 12 squad. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. And if you're not, you're probably making the first listen every single day. This guy, because he's funny and cute. Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State. This guy can't seem to win a football game. Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs. He actually has nothing to do with whether or not the team wins, but he joins the Big squad today. Parker Ainsworth seems to have that same problem as well here recently of Locked On Cougars, all things Houston. Darian Gray, TCU has an outside shot at the college football playoff. So I'm being told right now he's the mouth of the South. He joins the Big 12 squad. And lest we forget, a man with 12 hairs. No, 13 hairs. In honor of the 13th ranking in the country, JT Wistrcill of Locked On Utes. Here's where we will start. If you hit subscribe, we can give our jobs. JT, Utah at 13. So if Texas Tech or BYU lose this weekend, they cannot move past 13, meaning the Big 12 conference next week will have 3 teams in the top 13. And Texas plays Georgia coming up. Oklahoma plays Alabama coming up. We're getting 3 in the college football playoff.
Feels that way right now. This is a massive win for the Big 12.
Can you be a little more excited, please? Can you be a little more excited?
I just said it's a massive win for the Big 12. I'm ecstatic right now. I mean, for the committee to actually put Utah over Virginia, what a win, right? Like actually being willing to say, hey, this Virginia team barely squeezed by a terrible North Carolina team that a TCU from this conference absolutely demolished earlier this year. The ACC has not been impressive. I absolutely feel like Utah deserves to be in the top 15, and I'm glad the Big 12 got the representation they deserve with 2 teams in the top 10, and I respect the fact that the committee did not go by what the AP poll did. Big 12 fans should be ecstatic right now, even those of you who are a little lukewarm on Utah.
I would say it's also great for you mentioned the ACC thing. The Georgia Tech fell that far, I think, is also important to the Big 12 conversations because, you know, they're just like Houston was last weekend. They just play a halfway normal football game. They're probably undefeated, Georgia Tech would be. And I think this tells us a lot about what they think of Georgia Tech's resume, even with just one loss.
Who is Darth Vader breathing into the microphone? Like, I'm getting some serious Star Wars effects here.
Is that Chris Level somewhere off camera? So is that the surprise?
Before you wreck yourself. I like that point, though, that you made about Georgia Tech. Them being below Louisville and below Virginia shows that if you lose recently and lose to a bad team, we're going to punish you. It also makes me a little confused why Texas, with a bad loss to Florida, still gets to be above Utah.
The most baffling of the top 12. And frankly, I feel like Texas is going to Texas it at some point, right? They almost gave it up against Vanderbilt. They lost a couple of bad teams in Florida and stuff like that. Like you mentioned Georgia, but I think they could just lose any given week. And they also play an A&M to end the season, right? So
I think the thing with Texas, though, is like they have the win over Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. I think the bigger question about the Big 12 is how do we get 3 teams in? Because BYU and Texas Tech play this week. I don't know if you guys have heard College Game Day is going there. And that's kind of could be an elimination game for Texas Tech. Do we not think that? Like,
I don't think so. After what we saw from Utah, again, they would not rank Texas Tech below Utah. So Tech at the lowest would be 12th, which is a spot away from the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think you need Notre Dame to lose. I think that's probably the way
being 12th isn't good, though, because like Texas was 12th and they're the first team out.
Correct, but Texas and Oklahoma both play Georgia and Alabama coming up. So they're going to be out. We're going to shift in. And given that scenario, there's a way, this is maybe the best case of the Big 12, where like BYU beats Tech. They play the Big 12 championship against Darian's TCU team.
Let's talk about it.
TCU wins that game. TCU wins that game. They're in. BYU can't be left out. Texas Tech can't be left out. And then Utah is still sitting there at number 11 because these SEC teams and Big Ten teams are going to lose to one another down the stretch.
It seems like the best place to be in any conference is like the 3rd best team in the conference because you don't have to play the conference championship game and you're still like good enough to be like, okay, well, we have to put them in the playoff, right? That feels like the spot to be, like the Ole Miss spot, if you will.
Or Ole Miss, like a Georgia's right there too. Oregon's there in the Big Ten, and Utah's in that spot right now. So if Utah can continue to dominate some of the teams that like continue to dominate the way they have, they will be in this because, like we talked about, like some of these teams, they're just going to knock each other off. So Utah's in a good spot right now, and I do think that even with a loss this week, Tech is still in a nice spot, especially if they can get into the Big 12 title game to still make the college football playoff. With those losses only being to good teams.
10-2 Oregon or 10-2 Utah. Who do you take?
My thing about the Tech losing is it does feel contingent on them making and winning the Big 12 championship. So I don't know how good of a position that feels to me. Like if you are now put in a section where you must win against BYU in the title game again, that doesn't feel so favorable because I don't think a 2-loss Texas Tech who has lost to who was the first loss for that Tech?
Arizona State.
This brings the SMU thing back up again, though. They're not supposed to give you any discredit for losing in a championship game.
So they said about SMU.
Unless it's a third loss, though. That's a little different. But
my thing is, okay, does the 2-loss Texas Tech make the college football playoffs if they don't make the championship game?
I think they have a chance depending on what else happens. Christian hit the nail on the head earlier saying we need Notre Dame to lose. Pitt is playing better football right now. Go Oregon.
Can I ask a question about Oregon? They finished the year with USC and Washington, so that may be a moot point. They beat teams by a lot of points when they beat them, except for Penn State.
Their best win's Penn State, though, and that's not even a good
Penn State
win.
Fired their coach because they had a bad year. Like
it looked good in the whiteout, but it's not as good of a win as it once was looked at before.
Exactly.
James Franklin was fired.
They hang a bunch of points on these teams they're supposed to beat, but who have they really beaten?
They beat Oklahoma State. Parker, what are you talking about, dude? What do you mean?
This year's Indiana, Parker. Just a team that's blowing out random teams that nobody cares about, and Oklahoma State, obviously the juggernaut that they are.
Except they also lost to this year's Indiana. I think that's my thing. Is like they've only played one good team and lost to them, and they play 2 at the end of the year. That may change things, but right now I don't see what they've done.
So
they are blowing teams.
Like, what's the alternative, right? Because we know, like what you're describing is it feels like a stance against what normally would happen. So how would you suggest that the committee will go by it? Because we know what they do. If you're a preseason all-star, preseason great team, and you beat teams you're supposed to beat by gigantic amounts, you're most likely going to be put into the college football playoffs, even if you do have a loss against your one good team.
Usually that's the case. What I think the committee proved this year is that they want to veer from that via putting Texas Tech above Oregon. This is a different committee. Like we haven't seen, in my mind, Oregon no doubt would be above BYU, would be above Texas Tech in these rankings. The fact that they were not shows me this committee is doing it a little bit differently. And if that precedent is set right now with this year's version of the committee, then I think what we're going to see is that if Oregon loses to Washington, let's say, and Notre Dame loses to Pitt, and Texas loses to Georgia, and Alabama goes on to beat Oklahoma, those are 4 teams in or ahead of us that they all get bumped out if the Big 12 continues to win with, say, 1 loss BYU, 1 loss Texas Tech, and we already know the committee likes 2-loss Utah. We're in a much better spot than we could be. Sans the whole Cincinnati deal, like them getting left out sucked. But yes, Parker?
I think the story there is actually that like Indiana is kind of the example of what would happen with Oregon, right? Because Indiana was in the college football playoff last year and came in, and like if you look at their schedule, their good wins are Iowa, which was on the road, I guess they weren't ranked or whatever, and then Oregon themselves, like that's their 2 big wins, and it's not like there's a whole lot of those. That's kind of just the inverse if Oregon had won that game.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm looking at here. It's actually like we're seeing that the committee says, okay, the second place of those 2 is falling all the way back to 9. I think that tells us something about that as well. Like I just it's an interesting problem because I don't know what to make of Oregon.
Can I give you this?
They have the new metric, the strength of record, whatever they call it, the record strength, whereas like you could beat a lot of teams by a lot, but if you're playing the Citadel and Oklahoma State, no offense, Cody, I'm sorry, Colorado every week, like doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter if you're blowing these bad teams out. And so I think it's kind of nice to see them like actually
please from the Loyal Cougars podcast, Tosh McIntosh, everyone.
We're done.
Wow.
Happy to be here. Big day for the Big 12.
Hello, Tosh.
I don't know. We couldn't get Jake Hatch, so I just grabbed Tosh.
All the Cougars we can find. All the Cougars we can find.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Coming up, the next segment of the Big 12 squad. Tosh, shut up for a second. We're about to come right back to you, I guess. This is the Big 12 squad. Tosh is here. Why not? I get to make the rules. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. Supply House is exactly where I go to tell you that Tosh McIntosh being on the show is brought to you by Supply House, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully that's not a conflict of interest for you, Tosh. The Supply House is exactly where I go as a new first-time homeowner to get HVAC, plumbing, electrical items for most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blindside cover. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House. Next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. My favorite part is the Trade Master program. Today, you can join it and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com. To sign up for free, use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service, all of that and more with Supply House. Okay, so a little context here. I accidentally sent the Big 12 squad link to a group chat with a bunch of BYU guys in it.
Nice.
So they're all about to show up randomly?
Yeah, I mean, Tosh took me up on it. Tosh, you, Jay Cash is stuck in traffic. You get to play BYU here for us. The Cougars are number 7 in the country above Oregon.
So my audio on listening to you guys is bad. I don't know how well you can hear me, but
Actually, perfect.
Yeah, I'm happy to stand in. I'm happy to stand in for Jake. Feel honored, and what a big day for the Big 12 and the Cougars. Like, I feel like it is the right ranking, but I'm shocked that the selection committee did the right thing and put BYU where they did and all 3 Big 12 teams where they did. Like, who would have guessed?
Guys, am I the only one that feels like this might be a little bit of smoke and mirrors? Like the committee's putting the Big 12 on a pedestal for this ranking just to knock it back down as the season progresses, because they really liked Florida State at one point in time until they didn't, and then they had to manufacture a reason for them not to, take.
This sets up a perfect shot.
They didn't have to go that far.
And I'm feeling beer.
I've got a different doomsday scenario actually that makes me worried.
It sets up a perfect shot to move Utah down, though, because you're on a bye. So it makes a perfect idea to be like, let's give you a good idea. Let's sit you up here for a minute, and then we'll have a couple people jump before you blow out Kansas State probably the week after.
Also, anyone else shocked that Jeff Long is still on the playoff committee? Hasn't he committed like war crimes in the Middle East? Why? How is Jeff Long still here? I thought we got rid of that guy a long time ago. Kansas athletic director Jeff Long, by the way.
Cody, how are you going to bring up you cannot bring up the Florida State thing and say they manufacture reason. It's the most important position on the field. They had an injury. They clearly look worse. If a Utah team stays healthy and continues to blow out the non-Tech and BYU teams as they have been, there's no way they're going to just drop. You can't manufacture a reason unless there genuinely is one, like a quarterback injury at that position. So I feel good about where Utah's at.
Did they or did they not still win the conference championship with a backup quarterback?
They did, but there was also how many undefeated? There was all those undefeated teams.
Well, consider we've also moved to 12 now. We're at 12 teams now. So it becomes a little bit of a move. Florida State would got in.
They would have still been in the top 12.
I'll also say that I think manufactured a reason is a bit aggressive. Like, did they find a reason? Yes, but I can't remember. I think it was Borba who said it wasn't like it was a hard reason to find.
Their staff fell off a cliff without Travis.
This is an aggressive podcast here, and that's the way we roll, man.
You know what? All right, TCU's making the college football playoffs. There we go. Since we're getting aggressive, we're going to go run the table. No, don't stop.
Realistic. Hold on. No, Darian's right. There is a scenario in which TCU, they've got a pretty decent path to make the Big 12 title. You win that, you're in the playoff.
So did
the thing about TCU and trying to make the playoffs is, I spoke about this earlier, is I feel like TCU has so much talent, they just never can put it together. Right?
Jake Hatch.
Hatch.
Tosh McIntosh is here, Jake. I just thought you should know.
Hey, Tosh, what's up, man?
We got 4 locked on Cougars on. This is awesome.
All the BYU guys.
Jake, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, BYU's the highest ranked, so we got 2 reps today. But I'm going to hop off here in a second and let Jake have all the spotlight. But what I will say is last year, I felt like the committee was sending a message with its first rankings that, hey, we're only letting 1 Big 12 team in. And then that's what happened in the end. I feel like this year, the selection committee was sending a message to the ACC, hey, you're only getting 1 in. They sent a message that, hey, the Big 12 is going to get multiple, and I'm all for it.
Well, everybody give it up, Tosh McIntosh.
Sure. Yeah, great job, sir. Great job.
Great. There he goes. We can get to that point, but Darian, I do want to let you finish that out. TCU still has, in a similar way to Arizona State, a path to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think the 2-loss team in the Big 12 is so fascinating because as you go through the schedules, let's say TCU runs the table. And one of the things that I was speaking about on my show earlier this week is the idea that TCU actually has a pretty complete team. They just don't put it together enough, right? Like Borbasard, they struggled in the first quarter versus Colorado, or struggling at the end versus Baylor and nearly allowing that comeback, or losing to Arizona State because you couldn't close the game. But TCU has the talent to be able to compete. So if they were to run the table, that would mean they would have a win against UH. Parker's out. That's a 3-loss team. Boom, you get them out the way. You have a win against BYU, which if BYU loses to Tech and they lose to TCU, that's a 2-loss team that you would have the tiebreaker over. Yeah. You got a win against Cincinnati, which would then push them down to 2 losses. We speak about these closing months, these last couple of games for a lot of teams. When it comes to TCU, they don't technically control their own destiny because there's still other pieces they need, but they do have a lot of control over their destiny where they can face teams and knock off teams that are above them and make the conversation a whole lot more interesting as we wind down. So the 2-loss team is very interesting. I'm just the representative of one of them, so I'm going to speak about my team. But man, the 2-loss team in the Big 12 is fascinating to me with all of the pivotal matchups that we'll see.
Darian, if history holds true, TCU will put it all together against BYU. They have had some absolutely epic battles in the past.
Well, I hope so. I think that's going to be, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but man, that crossover that you and I are going to have, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of storylines I'm already looking forward to. History, the road game, but we'll do what you said, the Dulce Grande. We'll keep it here, and then when it's the Cougars and Frogs, we'll get into it then. But man, it's interesting.
Parker, your pen is out.
Yeah, I'm all for the brand today. I do have a doomsday scenario that I'm worried about because it would be the ultimate.
All right, give me just call it the JT Wistersill scenario. Don't call it doomsday.
Well, actually, I think he'll like it the worst. Is we mentioned that Alabama and Georgia play Texas.
My Wi-Fi is terrible right now, so I'm so sorry. I'm missing like everything.
I thought you were just angry at him.
I thought he was just angry. I was worried.
Go back and look. You look furious.
So we mentioned that Alabama and Georgia play Texas and Oklahoma. We're scheduling those as losses for those two, the Red River schools, right? If the inverse happens, I don't think they drop Alabama and Georgia very far. And that actually worries me because it would be a very, frankly, a very SEC thing to happen. And it would be a very easy thing for the CFP to be like, oh, but Alabama's Alabama and Georgia's Georgia. And they would just leave them in the top 8.
Didn't work last year, though. No, I'm not saying they get to 3 losses, but if it is the flip side, and the best case scenario for the Big 12 this week is Auburn finds a way to beat Vandy, which would be wild. And then, of course, Texas and Oklahoma all losing. That gives them all 3 losses, and then they are out of the picture in the eyes of what the Big 12 has. So the inverse could still obviously be there, no doubt. And that doomsday scenario probably wouldn't be the best, but there's still a really good shot that Texas falls this week, Oklahoma falls this week. And don't count out maybe a recharged Auburn. Who knows? The SEC that's been really wild this year.
Oh, so are you saying I'm supposed to root against OU this weekend? How difficult.
Can you put on a brave face?
Find a way in your heart, Cody.
Sure. I will do my damnedest.
I do want to go back to the Tosh point of the Big 12 getting more respect than the ACC, and a very clear line has been drawn that the conference that will get screwed over this year is not us. It's the Dose Grande Squad. Hey, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go this women's basketball season. That's exactly right. College women's basketball is on FanDuel, as is the NBA and men's basketball and college football and the NFL and all that jazz. And with the NBA being back, there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game, you can ride the hot hand in the middle of the game with FanDuel live bets. From everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot of bigger payouts. Right now, FanDuel giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com. Sign up. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All of that and more right now at FanDuel. We have, JT, that Wi-Fi in Catawba is just, we have learned that the committee doesn't like the ACC. Last year it was us. They didn't like the Big 12. Last year we had to sneak a team in by winning a conference championship. This year, again, we're in a great place to get 3 in. Man, the ACC, if we see San Diego State, James Madison, and North Texas win out, or South Florida win out, they might not even get in altogether. Like Virginia's their bell cow. That's not a good spot to be in.
The Virginia.
Yeah, I like Texas's chances. I think they look the best resume
Over
wise.
USF.
They went
I mean,
out.
they lost to USF.
And the name you didn't
That's
mention,
true.
Memphis. Keep an eye on the Memphis Tigers, boys.
That UAB loss, I think, really hurts them though.
Yeah.
Memphis is a team that they like, though. They've already established that.
They already established them.
But I mean, Virginia, they have like a pretty easy path, but they're also Virginia. Like they've kind of just limped to this point where they beat Washington State by 2. They beat the Fighting Bill Belichick's by 1. They beat Cal by 10. Like, I don't think there's a chance that they finish this season unscathed. Same thing with Notre Dame to go back. They're ACC adjacent, sorry. But, like, I just feel like they don't finish the season unscathed as well.
But Virginia's got a much.
Do to get 10? Like, what is their quality? You talk about what is their quality when
Good losses, Darian. We love
touchdown
good
Jesus. I don't know. They got the Lord on their side.
Yeah, the same way we got BYU at the top. We got all these religious schools are making it to the top.
There you go. It's a hey. And what's the religious school that's going to come and take the Big 12?
Oh.
As a former BYU wide receiver once said, when you're living right on and off the field, magic happens.
There you go. It's just this is strange.
Which is why Utah ain't gonna make it.
What happens if Oregon loses? The Big Ten has a championship game. What happens if Oregon loses to Indiana in the championship game? Since we're just throwing out like scenarios, what happens to them when they're 2 losses and they don't have an impressive win and they lost to one of the better teams twice?
In that event, Ohio State's missing the championship.
I was gonna say,
oh yeah.
Okay.
Brain fart.
So are they going to drop 2 games in the next 2 weeks or something like that?
No. Yeah.
What do you know?
Okay, but they don't beat Michigan.
still on the schedule.
But Ohio State, Michigan, they don't beat Michigan anymore, right? That's just a thing that Day doesn't do anymore, right?
Oh, true. Yeah. I mean,
us Texas guys got to stick together, Parker.
That's
what I was trying to say.
For the Big Ten, the Big 12 should want just like Indiana and Ohio State to sort of handle business, because like if you let USC or Oregon or Iowa, it's not going to happen, but Iowa, if you let any of these teams sort of like scoot up to the top and like make things more complicated in the Big Ten, I think that's when we'll start to see the ripple effects in the Big 12. So you need the Big Ten to handle business. The SEC is going to cannibalize itself, and the Big 12 just sort of has to not Big 12 and like totally implode with like, say, Texas Tech losing multiple games and BYU losing a couple of games here and there. Like, just has to handle business, which is easier said than done for the Big 12.
Since we're talking about the Big Ten, JT, that means you're up.
Especially this conference.
What would happen if the ACC did fall out completely, though? Because like there is an actual path here.
So because you'd have Big 10, SEC, Big 12, at least one group of 5.
no, 2 group of 5.
You'd
So
have to have 2
5
group of 5.
conference champions. Yep.
American and Mountain
doesn't take
West
a
would probably
spot.
be the most likely situation there.
Yeah.
So you're telling me
American
former
and
Colorado offensive coordinator Sean Lewis might be in the playoffs?
Yes, San Diego State, baby.
Aztec fast, baby. Yeah, they've changed it up. No, honestly though, what changes though? Like what would realignment do? Or what would they talk about when it comes to college football playoff expansion this offseason? What does that do?
Florida State are hitting the ejector button immediately.
100%. Does that buyout make it a little bit more sweeter in the offseason this year if the ACC misses the playoffs completely?
If the ACC doesn't get anybody in, will Utah be in the ACC next year?
Oh, hey, can we also consider this? In my reflection over the course of the last hour or so, this is releasing on Thursday. We're recording right after the announcement of the playoff committee. A 1-loss ACC team that was number 7 in the AP poll is 4 spots behind a 2-loss Big 12 Utah. That is incredible. That is something we never expected. I thought that Utah would be 17th and Georgia Tech would be 13th. And it's the inverse.
So Drake, the thing is, you look at Georgia Tech's strength of schedule, which is a strength of record, I should say, in terms of what they're considering in the committee. They're 84th. That's why they're down. So they are way.
The committee is also paying attention to the fact that they should have lost the game against Wake Forest.
And they're talking about eyeball tests in addition to metrics, and I appreciate that. You keep winning, you're going to keep moving up in these rankings. It sure looks that way, at least on this initial ranking list.
Also, we can't give the ACC a pass for Virginia losing to NC State, but it not counting as a conference game. Just can't count it. Just can't give them a pass for that.
Is that their only loss? Why is NC? I love that NC State's just the world beater. This is hilarious.
NC State is like wrecking shop for everybody.
Also,
NC
so let's
State,
consider,
dark horse, future Big 12 school, doing our work for us.
For us last year, when Iowa State and Arizona State were at the top of the Big 12, we were all pointing, like the ACC was pointing and laughing at our conference for not having a power team at the top of the league. This year, we're pointing and laughing that their representative is Virginia. That's bad. Like they are represented by Virginia and Louisville and Georgia Tech. The team just lost NC State. The ACC is in the same position we were last year. Yeah, they have more teams ranked in the top 25 right now. But I don't need anybody ranked from 14 to 25. I don't give a rat's ass about those spots. If we have 3 teams in the top 15, it gives still a better opportunity for a TCU to get a marquee win, for a Kansas State to home wreck, for a Houston to come back in the conversation. Jake,
I know I showed up. I know I showed up late. Did we talk about the point of Mac Rhodes sliding in the fact that they helped ESPN out by ranking BYU and Texas Tech 7 and 8 to juice up College Game Day a little bit? Did you guys hear that?
Not hear that.
Yeah, so
take it.
Yeah, so
I just saw him relentlessly winking at the camera.
I can appreciate a Big 12 80, and you know him well, Drake Toll. Just sliding that in there and saying, "Hey, you're welcome, ESPN."
Yeah, Mac and I are good buddies. Mac,
we've watched
I know you got.
We've watched SEC games get propped up precisely like this. So I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool being on the beneficiary side.
I love it. I love the fact that we have a Big 12 sitting AD as the lead chair in that room.
Look,
And
Jeff Long was the first ever.
JT crap. That's my only contribution today, is giving JT a hard time. I do hope that Utah gets in because I think that would be a massive moment for the Big 12. And I think that Utah is good enough that all 3 Big 12 teams could legitimately have the possibility of getting a W if they do get in.
Hey, JT.
What's better for Utah, a BYU or a Texas Tech win on Saturday?
For Utah?
Not for Big 12 championship considerations,
That's a
but
good
for
question.
playoff considerations.
That's a good question.
It's more likely to have BYU.
BYU wins better, I believe.
They need BYU to win out essentially to keep them very much. Now, JT, how about like a redux of the Holy War in LES in mid-December? How about that?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
As a
that
playoff
would be
game?
absolutely epic.
Oh, in the
it'd be
Rose
amazing.
Bowl, BYU finally
one
goes to
thing
the
that's
Rose Bowl.
I'm okay with that.
I'd be down.
Interesting
I'd
is
be
they
down.
did show a willingness with. The one thing that's interesting is because they put Notre Dame ahead of Miami, it does show a willingness that if BYU got 2 losses, that Utah could get ahead of them.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, I mean, I see what JT's saying though, because Miami beat Notre. Like it's not necessarily about what you did.
But that happened in the first 3 weeks. And remember, it's the committee. Whatever happens in the first 3 weeks doesn't count.
Apparently, it doesn't matter one bit.
Apparently, yeah, it's clearly better to play someone like Notre Dame did. They lost both of those games actually, right? And like,
Notre Dame is the living example of you. The first 3 weeks just don't matter in the season.
Alabama lost to Florida State, and Florida State's nowhere near this.
They talked about the Notre Dame losses, and I had never heard like that was SEC level propaganda of like they were such good losses though. It was the final play, and then it was like almost the final play on the other one. Like I was like, dude, you're making it seem like they won the Super Bowl, but they lost twice, and it was close. Sure,
but they were almost there, man. They were
almost there. I mean, a couple more concessions, and maybe they get it. I don't know.
Good losses should mean nothing without being accompanied by good wins. Like I can let you get the good loss argument off because they were good. I mean, I know they were good losses, but what are the good wins? Like the best thing on your resume can't be we were almost there.
You got hypothetical wins, Darian. How do we feel about those hypothetical wins?
Ooh, if they played this, if the game was another minute, if you would have, I don't know.
Locked on SEC squad loves their hypothetical wins.
The transitive property is a big thing in the SEC, man. Come on now.
True.
I mean,
the conference known for
right?
that.
The SEC at least has the stigma, or at least I don't even want to say stigma because I think there's some truth to it, to where they have these quality wins. Like you go through Notre Dame's games, are we putting up Purdue? I mean, granted they have Arkansas, so the SEC, but like Boise State, North Carolina State, they did get USC. It just what are
USC? At least the best win
can hang their hat on. We beat SEC teams, like. Even if people feel like that's flimsy, feel like it shouldn't be the case, at least they have that. Notre Dame is just hanging their hat on we're Notre Dame. And I think that's a flimsy hook. Like that is very tough. But you know,
are you accusing them of going off of brand power, Darian? Is that
am I accusing them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
I thought that was clear.
I wasn't hiding it actually.
Good news, boys. The Big 12's a wagon. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, on the positive note, three teams. You know, I don't know what happens to the rest of you when them frogs come through. But right now, I think we should bask in the glory of.
No one mentioned Houston 7-2 and can still end up.
Oh, jeez.
No one said it.
All right, I love you guys. This has been Always Will Be Locked on.
Cody's the only team without a win.
Oh, the last like 2 years.
But
I
he just
thought we were gonna hang it up.
Can we count that as a win? Can we count dunking on JT?
Guys, it's wrestling season. What are we talking about?
There you go. It's a
Shout out
lock.
Daniel Cormier.
On. Thanks for getting your first listen every single day. Dose Grande Squad.